we got the Warriors here next. I've got them written down at 45 and a half. They haven't done anything this offseason. I'm going to go ahead and assume they end up with all the names that people keep assuming is going to end up there. Al Horford, D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton II. Maybe one of those guards, maybe they miss out on one of those guards because of this Kuminga stuff just takes too long. Who knows what happens with Jonathan Kuminga? Frankly, I'm not the biggest Jonathan Kuminga believer on this Warriors team. I don't think he makes an impact one way or the other. So I don't really care. I don't have him factored in when I'm looking at this win total. Either way. So I'm just assuming that they have those guys that we think that they're going to sign. Their starting lineup probably looks something like Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford. And then that off the bench, they have Podziemski. Maybe he starts over Hield, whatever. Moody, maybe he starts over Hield. Those are all kind of interchangeable. Gary Payton II, D'Anthony Melton. They have Quentin Post, Trace Jackson Davis. There's some guys I like in that group. But 45 and a half seems like quite a bit of wins for an aging team with some real injury history that needs their top guys to be healthy to make a push here. But maybe they're also more of a team that just needs to get into the playoffs healthy and be healthy. As long as they're healthy at that point, maybe they can make a run here. But 45 and a half, I don't know. My first instinct was that was pretty high for their over-under.
I started with them being an under. And I just now, actually, while we were talking, made the adjustment of like, all right, let's add Horford and Melton in there to how I've got this calculated from just a number standpoint. I come out at 47.7, so it's a slight over with those guys. There's talk Jake Fisher reported this. We talked about this in Locked On NBA that the Warriors had reached out to Chicago about a double sign and trade with Giddey.
Right.
That makes so much more sense to me. Where I'm like, that is an East-West player in an East-West system. What I mean by that is like Steph is not North-South. Steph is always running around, moving sideways. Butler likes weird angles. He doesn't go strictly north-south. He's not like Russell Westbrook straight to the rim. Jonathan Kuminga is a north-south guy. This is the words of his teammates. Like, I was at a game where Gary Payton Jr. was asked post-game about him, about what Kuminga brings, and it's like he gets downhill. That's not what the Warriors run. That's not how they operate their offense. So he doesn't make any sense there. This has frustrated me that they're continuing to squeeze this kid and may not trade him, despite the fact that it's like, you don't want him, you don't need him, you didn't play him. Let him go somewhere where he can actually be an impact and you can get some good guys. Turning down Malik Monk in any first-round pick for Jonathan Kuminga is madness, in my opinion, for the Golden State Warriors. But as far as their win total goes, I think this number is pretty close. I think that you have to factor in how old these guys are and the likelihood of injury, where even an average outcome for them probably gets this to where it's pretty scary if you're picking the over.
Yep.
And if they have a bad year of injury stuff, it's very likely an under. I don't know a lot of ways where this team wins 50, 52, 54 wins. There's some guys out there that I think are really high on Golden State and think they can do it. And I'm just like, guys, you got to really pay attention to some of the slides that we've seen. Steph's still amazing, but he's not who he was 3 years ago. Jimmy's really amazing. He's not who he was 3 years ago. Draymond's really amazing. He's not who he was 3 years ago. Father Time's undefeated. And it doesn't have to be a big drop-off for any of them. If it's just like a one-step drop-off for all three guys, then this team isn't what we think of them as. Right. So I lean towards the under. The numbers suggest an over. I'm going to stay away from it. But if you got to tell me I got to pick one, I'm probably leaning towards the under.
I think you nailed it when you said it's a scary over. It's a scary over because you're betting on health for all of these guys. And look, they won 48 games last year. Steph played 70 games.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games for Steph.
Yep.
And it felt like that was the most amount of games he could miss. When he was out, it was bad in Golden State. And if he plays 65 games instead of 70, they can go under. Now, a lot of Warriors fans will point to, hey, look at what we did after the Jimmy Butler trade. We were 9th in offensive rating, 1st in defensive rating, 3rd overall in net rating. Our record was a bajillion and nothing or whatever it was. And the only reason we didn't make it out of that round in the playoffs was because Steph got hurt. Okay, fine. Warriors fans are going to learn something about Jimmy Butler this season. When Jimmy Butler plays regular season games, he doesn't care about regular season games. Jimmy Butler only wants playoff games. And Jimmy's going to take a lot of nights off in the regular season, and he's not going to look as energized and as motivated and as FU Miami Heat as he did last year after the trade deadline. And that's just the way Jimmy Butler is. And that's fine. It's worked for Jimmy Butler over the course of his career. But in the regular season, he is not a superstar. He is a postseason superstar. And if you're dealing with that from Jimmy Butler, if you miss a couple more Steph Curry games, the Draymond Green thing, there's some nights where he looks like the best defensive player in the league, and then there's other nights where he just doesn't anymore. He's just not that guy consistently at this age. Nothing against Draymond, but you said like it's father time. It happens. It's really scary for me to take that to pick them to win 46 games this year. So I went under here, a slight under. I don't feel great about it. This is probably a stay away for me.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not as slam dunk of a stay away either as I thought it maybe it would be.
The numbers are so good in those games with Butler. However, if you go back, because I noticed this at the time, it was stuff like Luis Santos has a career high.
Right.
Quentin Post goes for 18 and whatever, like 20. It was like a bunch of random wins where a lot of Draymond Green had a season high in one of those games and scoring. He was like a lights out scorer for one night. Now you could say like that's the Jimmy effect. He makes everybody better. And I'm like,
right.
All right,
there's also a pretty soft schedule for those first first week and a half or two.
Yeah, and like look, they will have soft stretches of their schedule too. It's just a matter of how much of that record do you kind of distinguish against? Like, what is the record that you can? How far is it from that being an outlier? If we take that down a reasonable amount, and then we factor in injuries and ups and downs and everything else, what does that kind of look like?
At their age, they need to just get into the post. I like them much more as a scary playoff team than a regular season wins team.
Yeah.
I think that's just the difference here.
Yeah.
One other point on the Josh Giddey Kuminga thing, I wanted to piggyback on that. I remember I was covering the Warriors for Bay Area News Group at the time, and I remember talking with some people in the front office then, and there was a pretty significant contingent of people who really liked Josh Giddey in that draft. And Giddey went 6, Kuminga went 7. Oklahoma City took Giddey at 6, which was a little bit of a surprise until just before the draft, and then people started to figure that part of it out. I think that they would have been had Kuminga gone 6 and Giddey been there at 7. I think the Warriors would have taken Giddey. I think they were really interested in that.
Interesting.
The other guy that they liked was Franz Wagner in that draft, but they thought that was going to be too much of a reach, so they were wrong. Yeah, I thought the Giddey when I saw that Giddey report from Jake Fisher, that was the first thing I thought of. They've kind of liked this guy for a while because they know that he could work in that system.